Welcome to our Summer Night YouTube hop. We have a couple of rules for you to be able to participate in winning some amazing prizes. Subscribe to all channels, leave a comment on all channels, and don't forget to write where you're from. Now meet us and our fantastic sponsors. If you've watched any of my videos before, you'll know it's no surprise that I'm heading in a steampunk direction with this one. I started with a bottle that I found in recycling. It is good to have neighbors that have an interesting choice of tipple when it comes to the shapes of the bottles they dispose of. But I digress. I'm using glamour paste in gold on this bottle, and each side needs 2 coats, which I'm drying in between. Of course, I've got this on fast forward because this whole project took me an hour and a half to create, which isn't long in the grand scheme of things, but you really don't want to be sitting here watching me paint a bottle umpteen million times at real time. Now you can see that I'm now painting in the opposite direction and just giving it 1 coat. So once I'm happy with the sides, I'm giving the top a good textured layer because I'm wanting to ultimately head in a rusty direction. Here you can see me pouring out the various Allegro paints in browns, oranges, yellows. And I'm starting with the wooden gears, which I like to paint while they are still in their surrounding. And I found these little offcuts. I'm not sure where they came from, but they were in my stash of stuff, so I'm going to add them to my project. And now I'm painting the lid in a rusty style as well. The rust works with creating different layers of the browns. This stencil is one from Stamperia, as with all the tools and equipment that I use. Being a Stamperia teacher, I do rather enjoy their products. So now I've stenciled that and checked that my heart dome that I found in my stash fits. I'm extending the rust area, spraying it with a bit of water and making it look like it's dripping down. Now I'm going to work on the top. And here you can actually see that at some stage I had painted a heart on the back, but I used too much paint and it bled through, so I covered it over with another layer of glamour paste, and here you can see me going over it with the sponge and making sure that I don't use too much paint on my sponge so that it doesn't bleed underneath the stencil. Once I'm happy with that, I fiddle with the edges and make it look integrated. Continuing onto the top with the same colors that are on my sponge. Using the rest of the stencil, I now want to add the message to the heart on the side, and it says mechanical heart. I'm using just part of the stencil at this stage, and again, because I had washed my sponge, it was a little too wet, so I had to clean it off, which is quite possible because the glamour paste sticks really well to the glass. And I'm just using a wet wipe and water, removing the bits I don't like, blow drying what is still wet, and going back and fixing up. So you see it's quite easy to fix if you have a problem. Now that I'm happy with all the colors I've added, I'm again going to integrate my rust around the edges of my bottle. For the final side, I'm going to use the last little bit of the stencil, which says, turn up the heat. No, turn up the love. I'm masking it off with some masking tape that I found at an art shop. It is a very low tack masking tape, a bit like a post-it note. Now that I'm happy with my bottle and I've cleaned up my craft sheet, it is time to start putting everything together. But first I want to test and see that my theory is going to work. So where I doubled up the heart, you can actually see that it is showing more of a heart shape than the other side where I just did one layer of paint. Now I'm adding little half pearls for extra texture using heavy body Stamperia finish, and now I'm just popping out my gears and working out where I'm going to put them before adding the heavy body finish to my glass dome, a plastic dome, and gluing it on. There's one of the gears, and I'm adding a metal one for extra layers because I like to add layers. The more layers, the better it looks. To make sure that the heart feels integrated into the bottle, I'm now painting where it joins onto the bottle with various colors of the browns and coming up the sides of the heart a little bit. I then also want to integrate the gears onto the bottle, and again I'm using my sponge and then tapping my sponge, which gives a softer look than the hard brush strokes, onto the heart so that it looks like it is connected and part of the bottle, like it always was there, like I never added it at all. Final touches with the brush, and now I'm getting out some flowers because I need to hide where the wire of my lights is going to go. So here you can see me popping my lights in and my cork and winding the wire around the flower stem so that it will stay in place. Using my hot glue gun, I'm gluing the flowers in place and the wire in place. And then I'm going to hide the wire with the wooden gears and make them look like they're turning. So that's a kind of a play on words, turn up the love. So the gears are part of turning up the love. My final thing is to glue the battery pack underneath the bottle where there is a slight indentation so it sits nicely under there, and to hide the rest of the wires at the top with some more flowers. One last flower to hide the extra wire, and that job is done. To balance the rest of the bottle, I am adding the two bigger flowers that come in the same flower pack. I've used the full flower pack on this bottle. To make the front integrated, I add the last flower, and then adding the tiny metal gears for little points of interest and extra sparkle on my bottle. Lastly, I'm going to add 3 more of the half pearls to link the ones that I put inside the heart, and my project is done. I hope you enjoyed that. It's just a fun bit of summer night. Mechanical heart, turn up the love.